Hello, Pratik.
Yes, sir.
Hearing.
Yes, sir. It's good.
Rashekar, can I start?
Good evening, everybody. Everybody from the Academy, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra. Sir, with your permission, can we start?
Please.
Sir, thank you. Lakshmagar.
Sir, welcome to all dignitaries and friends. This is the memorial lecture of P.S. Krishnan, first memorial lecture. We are organizing in virtual. I think so many great people are sitting in institute. It's a very pleasure to welcome you, and I'm very grateful to welcome address to this memorial lecture. We are from Hyderabad. Three organizations jointly organizing this first memorial lecture: Center for Dalit Studies, SC/ST Officers Forum, and Dalit Bhujan Front. The three organizations is working for Dalits and poor people. Basically, three organizations is working different areas. Center for Dalit Studies working in research and lobbying and advocacy and training. And SC/ST Officers Forum, they are mobilizing the SC/ST officers and to support the masses in grassroots level. Dalit Bhujan Front is mass organizations. They are mobilizing people on the ground to protect their rights and the other issues. Then I want to briefly tell. See, the Center for Dalit Studies, basically Center for Dalit Studies, inspired by great people like S.R. Shankaran, P.S. Krishnan, Lalit Madhur, and K.R. Venugopal, and Yugender. All you know, these all people are came from Andhra Pradesh cadre. We are very proud of it, and these people are were influenced in the Indian polity and Indian administration, and as well as in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh also. Center for Dalit Studies working for the Dalits from 1999. I think it will be 21 years. Basically, we achieved SC/ST Subplan Act in 3 states: United Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Now it became a 3 states. We mobilize across the society. We mobilize media. We mobilize political leaders. We mobilize social organizations. They right to left, left to right. This is the one kind of thing. We believe in the concept of the inclusiveness. We are not mobilizing only Dalits. We are mobilizing society for Dalits. We are mobilizing society for tribals. We are mobilizing society for poor people. In Andhra Pradesh, United Andhra Pradesh, we have so many people to work for Dalits from different communities, different social backgrounds. Because of these S.R. Shankaran, because of K.R. Venugopal, because of P.S. Krishnan, Lalit Madhur, Yugandhar, they worked in grassroots level. They worked as not only administrative officer, they worked as a social activist. They worked as a human beings. That's why in our state we got so many schemes. If you know, in 1976 we had Arjun conference organized by S.R. Shankaran, P.S. Krishnan. All those people, they worked for the conference. From that conference, only S.R. Shankaran issued 120 GOs for the SC and STs. That was the history. Another important thing is we have a Center for Dalit Studies fought for Telangana movement. After Telangana movement, we had a dialogue with the government. We got these so many schemes. If you see in Telangana, we had a land purchase scheme. every Dalit family, the government decided to give a 3 acres. Now we had a 16,000 acres distributed, 6,000 families got benefited. Like that, married girls, they are getting Kalyana Lakshmi. Then we have a 1,000 residential schools, SC, ST, OBC, and minorities. In this process, Center for Dalit Studies and SST Officers Forum and Dalit Bahujan Front have a great role to mobilize these all political leaders. Another important thing is we believe society have a major role to change the Dalit and tribals life. That's why we are concrete and concentrating and continuously working with the other community, humanity people, humanist people, human rights. They are believing. That's why this PS Krishnan First Memorial Lecture also we are organizing because of we want that people. They are working for us, working for Dalits. They are working for poor people. That's why we want that persons and we continuous. Even Center for Dalit Studies and DBF and SST Officers Forum continuously organizing SR Shankaran Memorial Lectures from 10 years. We are decided even PS Krishnan Memorial Lecture also. This is the first lecture. I very much thankful to Director Sanjeev Chopra. Is a very honor to us because of this happening. Rajshekar Unru, he suggested the Sanjeev Chopra Sahib is the best option for the first lecture. That's why even SR Shankaran Memorial Lecture also we started with BD Sharma. You know BD Sharma, he did so much work for the tribals. That's why our journey continues with you, sir. We are believing society should change. Society have a role to change the poor, change the Dalits and tribals. The inclusiveness also we are believing. That's why we are continuing this type of process. Thank you very much. I am inviting these Rajshekar Unru to preside over, and Kaki Madhavrao Garu, United Andhra Pradesh former Chief Secretary and retired IAS officer. He will be give a remnants of the S. Krishnan, and my friend Professor V. Krishna, he will give the remarks of the lecture, and then DBF National President, my brother Kori Vinay Kumar, will be give a vote of thanks. Now I am hand over to Rajshekar Unru to continue the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mallepalli Lakshmaya Garu. Good evening, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir, and good evening to all the faculty at the Academy and all the probationers, officer trainees, and all the participants in the memorial lecture. PS Krishnan sir's first memorial lecture. The participation is today through Facebook, through YouTube, and some people have joined through Zoom. I am very much humbled that I've been asked to preside over this memorial lecture. And we are furthermore humbled for the fact that none other than Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, who's a director of the LBSNA, has agreed to deliver the first ever memorial lecture on the title Civil Servant as an Agent of Social Change. I would briefly speak on two aspects. Firstly, I would like to speak about Shri PS Krishnan. PS Krishnan, like when we all talk as civil servants, as IAS officers, he was one of us. He belonged to the 1956 batch, and he was given Hyderabad cadre. In those days, Hyderabad was about to be merged into Andhra Pradesh. Later on, he was allotted to the united new state of Andhra Pradesh. And as soon as he As soon as he got into the service, during training itself, he was very clear on his focus towards the poor. If we see the entire spectrum of the way civil servants and especially IAS officers in the field have gone through from the 50s, we have a clear trend of focus on rural development and poverty. Poverty was a major issue in those days. That's why when we were under training, when B.N. Yugandhar sir was our director and Lalit Mathur sir were there was a special new focus on village attachment. You're supposed to go and stay in the villages. And we did that. That was a new trend in those days. And there was a land reform cell. There was an attachment for us when we came here in 1990. And most interesting aspect, the way Mallepalli Lakshmayaji, chairman of Center for Dalit Studies, has told us, very interesting aspect. Maybe you should really look into this. All the stalwarts who have really focused on poverty and the emancipation of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes somehow have come from the Andhra Pradesh cadre. S.R. Shankaranji, P.S. Krishnan, B.N. Yugandhar, Lalit Mathur, K.R. Venugopal. These are a few of them. And of course, B.D. Sharmaji and other officers came from few other cadres. Somehow, this was a hotspot and emerged. So when P.S. Krishnan got into the field in 57, he was very clearly focused on land distribution. Of course, it must have been the focus of the policy of the government of that day. But he really went into the field, went around meeting people the way any field officer does. But his career actually showed us that his commitment continued on to the most deprived of the poor, who are the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. So he was instrumental in creating the special component plan in 78. He went on involved in the conversion of Protection of Civil Rights Act into SC/ST Atrocities Acts. Later on, worked on the Safai Karamcharis and created the prevention of the prohibition of manual scavenging act. And he went on doing such kind of a work. After his retirement in 1990, that means when I entered service, he retired. But when I was in Government of India, I met him several times during his active life. So from 1990, maybe till recently, for the next 29 years, he was continuously and incessantly working for the poor, for the deprived, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and he also worked in the Ministry of HRD as an advisor. He was, in a way, instrumental in getting the Mandal Commission report, bringing in front of the government. And of course, rest is history. So the kind of contribution of P.S. Krishnan as a civil servant is immense, stupendous. And it also shows the kind of the way a civil servant can really contribute. The way we have, in fact, after a few minutes, we'll invite Shri Kaki Madhavraji, former Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh, who would be reminiscing about his experiences with P.S. Krishnan. But equally, I'm very proud to be telling all of you that the first memorial lecture will be delivered by Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, an equally committed, fantastic personality, not only as a civil servant. He has, I had a great chance of working with him in the Ministry of Agriculture. Both of us were joint secretaries. I was Joint Secretary Fisheries. He was looking after horticulture, and the kind of horticulture contribution this country does is immense. Of course, it doesn't get so much of a focus. And Dr. Chopra, in his very initial days of college, has really shown that he is a literary person. As early as 1978, he published a book of poetry, and he kept on publishing. And when he started writing, when you are in a career, you not only write about poetry or fiction or non-fiction. He went on to write about his contribution and his experiences. He wrote about his management system for district administration, his work in cooperatives, and whatever you learn as an administrator, one tends to contribute and tell the next generation that this is the kind of work. And as Dr. Chopra went on, he did not wait. There is always a parallel passion apart from your contribution as an IAS officer. Dr. Chopra is instrumental in the creation of the Valley of Words. Of course, all of you know it's a beautiful international literary festival. It's not in a well-connected Jaipur or Delhi or Goa. It's in a difficult location. It's in the beautiful hills in Dehradun. He conceptualized it. He has created it, and he's been running it despite his location wherever he is. So what we feel, all of us on the organizing side, is that we are very humbled to have such a personality, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir, to be delivering the lecture today. We are very humbled. We are thankful to you, sir. And we are really awaiting your lecture today. It will, we all hope, will shed a new light on the way our leading lights in our service. B.N. Yugandhar sir, who was a director here, Lalit Mathur sir, who was a deputy director here, and S.R. Shankar and P.S. Krishnan ji, K.R. Venugopal, who is responsible for the creation of PDS in this country. He created the PDS under P.V. Narasimha Rao's government. All these stalwarts should be our leading lights. I am also humbled by the idea of Dr. Chopra, who told me some time ago that all the writings of civil servants should be at the academy library. In the academy library, it should be a kind of a curriculum for the probationers and officer trainees. With these words, sir, all colleagues here and all the participants, I'm very humble. I welcome. The program will be is that after for a few minutes, Shri Kaki Madhav Rao ji, retired Chief Secretary Andhra Pradesh, will speak a few words about his memories about P.S. Krishnan's style of working, after which we would request Dr. Sanjeev Chopra to deliver the memorial lecture, followed by a few remarks by an academic point of view. And there is a book release today, like the way Dr. Chopra is a literary person himself. The book of reminiscences of P.S. Krishnan were written by Dr. V. Vasanthi. P.S. Krishnan was so busy that he never wrote down what all he did. So he was forced to sit down and he gave a continuous interviews to a Vice Chancellor, Dr. V. Vasanthi, who wrote it initially in English, and now it will be released today. The Hindi version will be released today. I would now request Shri Kaki Madhav Rao ji to speak a few words about his reminiscences of P.S. Krishnan. Thank you so much.
Good evening to all friends. Welcome, Dr. Chopra. We are happy that a person of your eminence is delivering the first lecture, memorial lecture of Ms. Krishnan. You know, there was a reference by my brother Lakshmaya about what has been done in Andhra Pradesh, later Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, in the field of, recognizing the presence of the poor and the needy. Now, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are known for several other things. But for people like us, what is important is who is caring for the bottom of the heap. Now, the programs that have been done in Andhra Pradesh and later in the last five years in Telangana, Mr. Lakshmi has listed out. And then he also mentioned that some of the people who are known for their concern for the poor happen to come from Andhra Pradesh, Kerala. Now, Punjab is a place where some special things have happened. Now, it's in Punjab that we have the kind of rivers that irrigate a lot of fertile area that feeds the country. Now, we are, in that sense, a place where a committed civil servant concept is born. The first man who talked about a poor man without knowing what a poor man is, who talked about untouchability without knowing what untouchability is. Now, for a person like me, born in a Dalit community, for a person like me whose parents are illiterate, for a person like me, my parents were so poor they can't afford even a school education for me. It's easy to understand what exploitation is, what discrimination is, what the pain is, what untouchability is. But Krishnan did not have any of these advantages. In a way, I'm using it in a very, very loaded sense. I have the advantage of understanding what untouchability is. But he had none of that experience. So how did he develop this kind of liking or interest or a sense of mission in poverty and in SC, ST, BC minorities welfare? In my view, he's a kind of born rebel. You know, he talks about how he has come to know about what's happening in India in terms of untouchability. All over the world, you have a gender and color discrimination, classification. But untouchability is something which is very, very especially miserable state of concept in India. Now, the first time he talked about this was when he was walking in the long corridors of Padmanabha temple. In Kerala. He was not talking about God. He was not talking about his family. He was talking to his father about the public issues. And at the age of 10 or 11, he reads about the statement of Babasaheb Ambedkar that 1 out of 7 people in India are untouchables. He hears the word untouchable for the first time because he was born in a Brahmin community and he had no occasion to know what untouchability is. Just that he read it in a newspaper and readily asked his father, what is untouchability? Now, this is an occasion not only for us to remember the great man P.S. Krishnan, but his great father, normally a Brahmin who would like to protect his son from being educated or knowing about untouchability. But he tells him in detail what is untouchability, who are untouchables, what's the background. And then the next occasion is that one of the untouchable students studying with him comes to his house and he requests his mother to serve him food along with him in their dinner table. Now, mother will be more sort of rigid in these matters in terms of this observing this untouchability, but that lady is again so great as to serve food for an untouchable along with her son. Now, these are the people who sort of did not stop Krishnan not to go into this area. We hear that Buddha's father did not allow Buddha to know what pain and suffering is. He kept him away from it, but his parents did not. So whatever is happening in Andhra Pradesh, I'm trying to trace who are all the people who have contributed this kind of movement, I would call it, in Andhra Pradesh, where we have people like K.R. Venugopal, and much before that, Ms. Shankaran, S.R. Shankaran, and Yugandhar. Now, these are the names that have been mentioned to you so far. Now, for them, the Adi Guru is Ms. Krishnan, because he was the first man to talk about this issue of empowering the SCs and STs. Now, he was doing it right from word go, as assistant collector under training and as sub-collector. He was only sort of giving importance to this issue. When he goes to the villages, he goes, Lakshmi Garu, please stop me, or when my time is over. Because talking about Ms. Krishnan could get me lost in the, forget about the time. So he goes to Harijanwada and then summons the village officers to Harijanwada. And he eats with the Harijans what little they have, and then asks the village officers to eat with him. They will hold their nose and then pretend to eat. Now, then this land allotment, house sites allotment is all something that he started. It is not as though the government was doing a campaign like these days to allot lands or house sites in those days in 1957, 58 actually. He starts the work, and as he was doing the job of the sub-collector, Mr. S.R. Shankaran, it so happens gets allotted to Andhra Pradesh, and then he is posted to Guntur for training. Ms. Krishnan is working as sub-collector in the neighboring subdivision. He comes from about an youngster has come. So he goes and meets him and says, let's go and see what's happening in the field. So he takes Ms. Shankaran into the villages, tell him what he's doing, what their condition is. And that's where Shankaran comes in to team up with him to say that, look, we are here for these people. And Shankaran improves upon Mr. Krishnan by becoming a lifelong bachelor. But fortunately for us, though Ms. Krishnan was married, Mrs. Santa Krishnan, a great lady, always sort of encouraged him to do what he wanted to do. And so the sequence is coming like the parents, Mrs. Krishnan, and his junior youngster like Mr. Shankaran. And then comes the 1962 batch. That's where, that's the batch to which I belong. Yugandha, myself, and Venugopal. We are again in that mold. Now, in all these four are non-Dalits, of course. Yugandhar is a Sudra, but the Sudra caste to which he belongs is a fairly prosperous and powerful community. But Venugopal is a Brahmin, and he was all the time identifying himself with the cause of the poor people. The knowledge of Ms. Krishnan about the problems of the Dalits is something unbelievable. Being born in that community, I know less about how many castes we have, in which state what caste exists, and what is the equivalent of one subcaste or caste of SC in Andhra Pradesh with Kerala or Andhra or Karnataka. Now, he specialized initially in the SC movement, but he thought for him, the canvas should be much bigger. So he went into the tribal welfare, he went into the OBC, and he went into the minority welfare. Now, the quantum of time he spends on these problems is unimaginable. Normally, at the young age, you have very, very sort of progressive ideas, modern ideas. And slowly it fades out. And soon, probably, you become a reactionary. Particularly, Andhra Pradesh is known for that. Andhra Pradesh is known as the land where Communist Party next to Bengal or Kerala. Andhra is the strongest area for this communist movement.
Sir, Madhura, sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. You might, you can conclude soon.
Wind up, yeah. So that community which was known for its communism is now the richest community. There are two communities, rather I won't name them. They are the richest communities. But for Krishnan, it's not a matter of a few years. It is unto the last breath. Now, I saw him working round the clock till his health was failing. Even after the operation, he was all the time on this job, working, and writing to authorities and giving inspiration to a number of officers, like the names that we have mentioned. In one of the meetings that was going on in Delhi, I mentioned this earlier in some other occasion, I saw him so anxiously working on this amendment to the Justice Act, the latest Act amendment. I momentarily felt like making this. I told him, sir, we have the donation of organs facility, and we need you to help people of the downtrodden communities. For so long, a normal life is not enough for you. I wish I could donate 5 years of my longevity to you. And immediately, number of others who were there in that meeting, they stood up and said, we would like to donate 5 years. We would like to donate 10 years. Because we needed him much longer period. He lived long and he lived to the last, worked to the last minute. But we need him a longer period. But since he's not there, we need people like Dr. Chopra to continue to spread this message. And once again, I welcome you to this first memorial lecture. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to inform all of you, the family of Shri P.S. Krishnan is also watching this program, and they are also a part of this program today. I'd like to request Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir to deliver the first P.S. Krishnan Memorial Lecture. Thank
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajshekhar Bundru, Dr. Rajshekhar Bundru, my very dear friend, with whom, as he mentioned, we were together in Krishi Bhavan, and those last 7 or 8 years that we have spent with each other. We have known more of each other, and we have sort of, we respect a lot. Thank you so much, Dr. Bundru, for your kind words and for presiding over today's conference and for inviting me to deliver the first address. Not only me, but I think even the Academy is privileged that you gave this honor and this opportunity to this Academy, which is also his alma mater, to take his mission and his vision forward. As the president of today's meeting, Dr. Rajshekhar Bundru, our senior colleague, Shri Madhav Rao, who spoke from his heart, and we were able to see how connected he was, and we've also learned how Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have been the leading states in the country in this direction. Thank you very much, Dr. Lakshmaya, the president of the Center for Dalit Studies, not only for taking the initiative, but also for setting the context. He mentioned to us about how the SC/ST Officers Forum and how the Dalit Bahujan Samaj have been working, the Dalit Bahujan Front have been working on these issues. We have with us Professor V. Krishna, professor from the University of Hyderabad. We have with us Shri Koravi Vinay Kumar, the national president of the Dalit Bahujan Front. I pay my regards to Mrs. Krishnan, Mrs. Shanta Krishnan. We have with us Shri Nanak Chandji, who was very closely associated with Mr. P.S. Krishnan, and together for the National Action Forum for Social Justice, they've been working. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that today we had a very interesting panel discussion, and I'm glad that Amod and Divyanshu Patel, both of whom are my officer trainees, and therefore I take a lot of, I feel very happy when they do well. And today's session went off very well in the afternoon, and I'd also like to thank Rajshekhar and Priyanka for having joined that session, which I thought set the tone for today's session, because the context and the way in which the session went across and your sensitivity has shown that these are all issues which are very, very significant and very important for us. I'd like to welcome my colleagues on the course team, Gauri Prasha Joshi, Dr. Milind Ramtek, Abhiram, Nitesh, Disha Pannu, Ekta Unyal, who worked very hard to get this going, and two of my very senior colleagues here, Nandini and Vijay Vasanta, and of course, my dear officer trainees. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor, I would say, an honor to speak on Dr. P.S. Krishnan. You see, I did not know Dr. P.S. Krishnan, but the person who I believe is my mentor is a person called Dr. R.S. Tolia. Dr. R.S. Tolia was the legendary Chief Secretary of Uttarakhand, or Uttaranchal as we called it. And he used to tell me that his mentor, or the person that he looked up to, was P.S. Krishnan. So in a way, I am paying a tribute to the mentor of my mentor. I never had the opportunity of meeting him in person, but Dr. Tolia would tell me that if the TSP and if the SCP are integral to development interventions today, if the TSP and CSP are, SCP are integral, then the credit goes to Shri P.S. Krishnan. And it's so important that we go through the works of P.S. Krishnan, because that also tells us how, as civil servants, we can be the change that so many others want us to be. You know, reading Dr. Krishnan's works also brought me, I mean, he acknowledged amongst the things, in fact, so many people have been mentioned, so one need not mention them again, but he also brought the reference of Shri D. Bandyopadhyay. Now, D. Bandyopadhyay was another civil servant who I had the pleasure of knowing in the West Bengal cadre. He was the one who operationalized Barga, or recognition of the right of the shared tenants, the sharecroppers. And that's some point which Dr. Ambedkar has always been making, that ultimately, who is the person who's creating value in agriculture? The person who creates value in agriculture is the women and the men who are actually toiling on the fields. And the impact of Deep Bandyopadhyay's work is that from 1986, when I first went to the state, and when I left it till 2 years ago, there has been a complete transformation of the rural landscape. What Operation Barga did was that it empowered people. They produced 3 crops a year, and for the first time in hundreds of years, Bengal became self-sufficient in rice. And it was no longer dependent on Punjab or Haryana for food grain. Now, it's bad for Punjab and Haryana, but it's good for Bengal that they are finally self-sufficient in food grain. And that credit, of course, goes to the political executive. But on the ground, it is the civil servant who delivered the change. And therefore, it's a great opportunity for us. It's a great privilege for us. And thank you very much, Dr. Wundru. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. You know, Wundru is a meticulous scholar. I don't want to make it sound as a club in which he praises me and I praise him, but the fact is that for over the last 7 or 8 years, he's been writing and writing very critically, and he writes without fear and without favor, and that's a great hallmark. It's thank you so much. You know, there is a term in English which is called a man of many parts. That is a person whom a single descriptor will not be sufficient to describe a person with a single description. That is a man of many parts. And so, P.S. Krishnan, you were a civil servant, you were a reformer, a revolutionary, without arms, of course. You were an activist, a writer, thinker, fighter for a cause, historian, because he was able to link several facts of history, you know, from ancient times to the present. Polyglot, Malayalam, Telugu, English, Sanskrit, Hindi, a scholar of the Indian Constitution, personification of praxis. You know, there's this term about, you know, how different people are when they preach and when they practice. So a person who can combine his practice with his precept and action, that is the personification of praxis. He was a scholar, and he was one person who also explained to us that, look, all the time we keep talking of Gandhi versus Ambedkar. It's true that they had differences, but they also had many commonalities. We have never focused on those points which were so common between Gandhi and Ambedkar. And we create these unnecessary binaries often in our minds. He was a person who believed and praised Vivekananda, praised Dayanand, praised Swami Shraddhanand. You know, I mean, Dr. Ambedkar himself is a person who I think ought to be read many more times. And I'm glad that last year with Divyanshu Patel and others in this very academy, you brought out readings on social justice, which for the first time, I think we were able to learn a lot by these things. And of course, as you're all aware, I work for the Maps of India. The one person who understood that India needs a linguistic reorganization was Dr. Ambedkar. Let me also tell you that, you know, when the first delegation of Sikhs went to him and wanted to press for a separate Sikh state, he said, look, India cannot have states based on religion. But if you are going to ask for a state based on language, I shall be with you. So he was very clear in his thoughts, whether it was about for Maharashtra, whether it was Punjab, and therefore the map of India that you see, the image and the imagination of India is also a tribute to Dr. Ambedkar, and of course to Mr. Krishnan, who was a great scholar in his own life. So I now come to Mr. P.S. Krishnan, the person. You know, I will not have to speak much because in the morning session, a lot has been spoken about him. I'm glad that Rajshekhar told you about his ACR also. So part of what I had to write, I mean, part of it has already been, I won't choose the word, already taken away, but he didn't know what I have to speak and I didn't know what he would speak. But in any case, the fact is that his work encompassed the rarest of the rare amongst Indian bureaucrats, but I'm glad that this rarity is disappearing. I would want this term rarest of the rare to disappear. We would want many more civil servants like P.S. Krishnan. I would want at least this epithet to disappear. He should not be the rarest of the rare. He should be one who can inspire all of us to lead, to work on that path. You know, as I already mentioned, that he was trying to synthesize the thoughts not only of Ambedkar and Gandhi, but also Marx, Narayana Guru, Vivekananda, and Periyar. And fired by such a synthesis and equipped with such an encyclopedic knowledge of thousands of Indian castes and their regional variations, the point which the Chief Secretary, ex-Chief Secretary just mentioned, and he was able to evolve strategies and constitutional means and legal premises to get the country on an even keel. You know, it's already been mentioned that he spent life and times in the bastis of the poorest people. This was exactly being consciously following praxis, that is, practicing what you preach. And, you know, you can imagine that how it would be when a collector visits that basti. And I'll now like to share with you, you know, the changes that you can make. You know, in 1986, I've shared this with a few other batches. You know, we used to say that, I mean, fortunately, leprosy is no longer a major health problem in our country. But in 1980s, it was. And in 1980s, a lot of slogans used to be written that leprosy is non-communicable, nothing happens. But actually, what I realized as an assistant collector, all you had to do was, as an assistant collector, to go to the huts of people who have leprosy and have a cup of tea with them. And you are conveying a message. Because hundreds of thousands of messages that leprosy is non-communicable or that AIDS is non-communicable will not make a difference. It is what you do which will make a difference. I had to mention about his ACR, but you have already heard it in the morning, so I'll skip this. And therefore, I'll talk to you about some other things. But let me just move on to what the way I have proceeded with the lecture. So I wanted to share with you about his views on Ambedkar, his views on Swaraj, and his views on three Swamis, religious personalities, but who were transformative. Vivekananda, Dayanand, and Shraddhanand. These were three Swamis who have not really got their space in history. P.S. Krishnan got these three Swamis their place in history. Of course, Vivekananda would have got his place in history, but he's been quoting Vivekananda very extensively. He's quoted Dayanand very extensively. And he praised Swami Shraddhanand as the rarest of the rare, or one of those who was most committed to the removal of untouchability in the country. Swami Shraddhanand, for those of us who are not aware, was one of the most powerful speakers of his times. He was one of those rare Hindus who was invited to speak at the pulpit of Jama Masjid in New Delhi. And he had the crowds, whatever could have been brought by the Caliphate movement, that was nothing. But what he was able to do was something even greater. And he said, he was very clear that the role of the Congress, the first role of any organization in this country is to remove social injustice. And he said that you cannot have political freedom unless you resolve this matter. And on this, we find that within the Congress, there were two streams of thought. I would certainly credit Mahatma Gandhi for being on the side, and he said on many times that unless the scourge of untouchability is removed, political freedom is no movement, has no meaning. But there was another group in the Congress which did not accept this, and it's fine. They could have their views, but he was very clear in his view, and Dr. Ambedkar had called Swami Shraddhanand the greatest and the most sincere champion of untouchables. And this was one thing on which both Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Ambedkar agreed. But, the bureaucracy of the Congress was very strong, like several bureaucracies are. And that bureaucracy of the Congress did not even give him the 5 lakh rupees which had been sanctioned by the Congress Working Committee for Dalit Udhar. So they gave him first 2 lakh rupees, and then they said that already, if we have money, we'll do it. This is all various aspects about his life. So now let's try to understand the life of Dr. Krishnan, or his philosophy and his thoughts. The first is incrementalism. A lot of people have thought that Mr. P.S. Krishnan was an incrementalist. In fact, the Hindi version of the book that will be launched today is by Dr. V. Basanti Devi. And as Mr. Rao said, that he was so busy doing so much work that he never had the time to write his autobiography. And therefore, we are very grateful to Dr. Vasanta Devi for doing a long autobiographical conversation with him. And she's asked him a lot of very frank questions, and he's given frank and candid answers. For instance, she asks him, she says, and I quote, "Your pragmatism, your belief in incrementalism, your readiness to go step by step, your belief that all great liberating missions in history have only succeeded by taking one step at a time, your abundant patience. Is it this which helped you chip away the mighty rock of injustice and discrimination, one chisel stroke after another? Did your proximity to power structures in the IAS help you to craft this strategy?" Now, this is the question which the Vice Chancellor is asking Dr. Krishnan, Mr. Krishnan, and he says, "It is not correct that incrementalism is my approach. I have looked at opportunities available to me at each point of time, kept in view the maximum possibilities available, and tried to push matters to the utmost extent possible in fulfilling the goals of social equality and social justice. In some situations, at some points of time, the opportunities were less, and when they were less, I trimmed my sails accordingly. When reaching out for the maximum, if I got something less, then I would accept it and continue efforts for the remaining, for the balance." This is very, very important. Always in life, we have to understand what is it that I can do, and we must do what we can do, and what we cannot do, it's okay, we'll do it the next time. So incrementalism was not a strategy, it was a tactic for him. It was a tactic. It is not that he did not want reform today and now, but he realized what can be done, and therefore he adjusted. And that's very, very important for all of us as civil servants to know what we can do and what we cannot do. And in what we can do, we must make our best efforts. The second characteristic, or the second feature, which was Dr. Tolia's phrase always, and he used to say, "Let not good be an enemy of the best." Just because you cannot get the best doesn't mean that you will not even aspire to be good. And Mr. Krishnan was also a realist, because in governance, we cannot be idealists. In governance, realism has to be the first step. Without DCs and the SCs, because DCs are landowners and SCs work on the land. So he had a difference of opinion with the then Prime Minister Charan Singh on this issue. But then he also recorded, he says, "But I realize that Charan Singh will support the Mandal Commission. And therefore, let me ask from Charan Singh what Mr. Charan Singh can give, and ask from Mr. Gandhi what he will give." So he was very, very clear about this. This did not dent his idealism. Realism did not dent his idealism, and therefore he realized what to ask from whom. He was aware, and another unique feature of Mr. Krishnan's personality was, and that's something which I've also told you, and all of us will realize that in our 35 years or 30 years of service, none of us, neither me nor Dr. Wunru nor Mr. Rao, would serve with the same political executive. Political leadership will change. The thoughts of the same political leadership will change, right? Because it is also, the political movements are also incremental in ways, right? So he has worked with the NDA, he worked with the UPA, he's worked with state governments across the country, irrespective of their ideological dispensation. His point was very clear, that the agenda for social reform is not the exclusive repository of one single party. If social reform has to happen, it will happen with every political party, and we must get every political party to address this. But he also was very clear that while political parties have to look to the next elections, the agenda for social reform is not for the next election. The agenda for reform is a long-term agenda, and it must be a long-term agenda. And he had a wonderful working equation with President Gyani Zail Singh. He had a wonderful equation. He worked very well with Mr. Bahadur. He got along so well with Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, the current Vice President. And every Prime Minister in the country in the recent times, from our current Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, Manmohan Singh, I.K. Gujral, Deve Gowda, V.P. Singh, Indira Gandhi, we find that he has had a rapport with all of them. He has consulted them. He's written to them. The late Ramvilas Paswan of the LJP, Yogendra Makwana of the Congress, Thawarchand Gehlot of the BJP, there was the current Union Minister for Social Justice, and every political party. And interestingly, from Brinda Karat, from the CPM, to an RSS ideologue like Bhagaiya from Karnataka, and everybody in between. Now, again, which says that there can be no untouchability even in politics. We have to talk to everyone, and we have to understand everybody's point of view as long as it is coming from a democratic platform. So I think, and the lesson from his life is that as long as your association with the political executive is not for a personal gain, let's understand that. As long as our association with the political party is not for a personal gain, but for putting your point of view across, it could be Kisan credit card, it could be rural electrification program, everybody will be happy because rural electrification is everybody's agenda, right? Literacy for everyone is everyone's agenda, right? So if we all do it, and if we support the political executive in the fulfillment of social objectives, there is no problem, there is no contradiction. Look, very few people know that he was the person who brought the Mandal Commission. He never wanted to take any credit for it. He gave the credit to the political leadership. The political leadership could not have done it without him. But our job as civil servants is we have taken a mandate. We have taken the mandate of doing our work quietly and silent. So it is not. So every profession, as I mentioned earlier, has a certain ethic, has a certain code. As civil servants, we have a certain code. Now, Mr. P.S. Krishnan never violated the code of being a professional civil servant. And that's a very important lesson for all of us. The next point that I'll develop on, and that was something on which he and Mahatma Gandhi had a major disagreement. I mean, that is on which Dr. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi had a major difference, was on the role of the state in bringing about change in society. I too am a statist. That is, I believe in the state. All of us believe in the state. That's why we are here. If we did not believe that the state is okay, if we thought that the state is, as Marxists would call, an instrument of class oppression, then we should not be here. We are here because we believe that it is through the state, it is through the instrumentality of the nation state that we will be able to bring about change in society. Now, Dr. Ambedkar felt that his participation in the Viceroy's Council as an executive member set the foundation for all the things that we are talking about today. So whether it is reservation, whether it is SC/ST scholarships, whether it is overseas scholarships, all these are things which he was able to get into the federal polity as a member of the Viceroy's Council. And he believed that the Viceroy's Council or any state can do a lot. The views of Mahatma Gandhi were very different. I mean, they did not believe that the state can do anything sensible. So two different views with the same common objective. But these are all things which are so important to understand that because these were there, it was very easy to incorporate them in the Constitution of India in 1950. Otherwise, it may have been very difficult. The other thing which I would like to share with you is that at the second roundtable conference and then the Yerwada Pact, these again are very important milestones in Indian history, because both in the RTC and in the Yerwada Pact, which was there between Dr. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi and the Congress, one thing became very clear, that while separate electorates will not happen, special dispensations shall be made, and therefore it is not a matter of grace. It is a matter of an agreement. It was an agreement between the Congress party and Dr. Ambedkar. So when a lot of times say that it's a grace that is being given, this reservation is something that we have given. No, it is not. It is the result of a conscious negotiation. It is the result of a dialogue. It is the result of a conscious policy. Now, friends, I come to the next aspect of what is change and who can bring about change. And for civil servants, how can change be brought about? You see, we all know that change is the law of nature. there is nothing that will not change except change itself. How does it take place? In a society where class and privilege is quite entrenched. You know, in the morning also in your session, you had a discussion on this. For Marx and others in the socialist tradition, there is no possibility of internal restructuring and reform. It has to be, it has to be a violent revolution. For nationalists, the sense of belonging to a nation evokes a higher sense of, it transcends class loyalty. That is what the nationalists would like to believe. For those with a religious disposition, change can be effected through a change of the heart. To rationalists, change can be brought about by addressing the faculty of reason and enlightened self-interest. But for Dr. Ambedkar and for all those of us who have joined the civil service, the Constitution of India is the Holy Grail. This is the instrument of change in this country. This is the instrument of reform in this country. Not only instrument of reform, this is also the instrument which will transform this country. So, when he talked about liberty, equality, and fraternity, and let me also share with you that in Ambedkar's view, fraternity was more than fellowship as it is used in the British or the European sense. It was more in the nature of Maitri as it would be used in a Buddhist Sangha. Now, therefore, let me just, from his, I have been very privileged. Thank you, Dr. Wundru, for asking me to speak on Dr. Krishnan, because I was able to read 3 of his books, or 3 books on him. And therefore, I'm trying to now draw for the young officer trainees here, the relevance of various articles of the Constitution and how they impact on empowerment. Now, what Dr. Krishnan did was that he looked at issues and linked the articles to that. I've done a little bit thing, I've drawn it in a little bit of a sequence so that it's easier for us to remember. Last year, we had shown Article 15 here in this very hall. But Article 15, as we are aware, is a very important article, because this is the article which is you can call it the socio-economic and development imperative in the country, strengthened again by the 93rd Amendment with another clause which allows for reservation. Article 16, clause 4, permits the state to make any provision for reservation. Article 17, which abolishes untouchability, makes it an offense punishable by law. Article 23, which prohibits trafficking in human beings and begar. Now, today, we can say that there is no begar, but remember at the point of time when this was made, and I remember that, in school they used to say, and look at the way, I remember there used to be a saying which would say, bekar se begar bhali. That was a common saying in those days. So look at the discourse, look at the mental imagination that we had, right? So 23rd prohibits that. 46 relates to, Article 46 relates to rules of promotion in education, protection from all forms of social injustice and all forms of exploitation. 164 says that states which have a large tribal population, there you must have a minister who should be looking at. Now, all these are facts which show that he had great faith in the state. He had great belief that the state will be the instrument of change. And the most interesting thing is, the big debate between Gandhiji and Ambedkar on whether panchayats can be instruments of change. Because Mahatma Gandhi had a rather idyllic view of the state. He influenced Premchand and Premchand influenced Gandhi. Right? Later on, of course, Premchand moved out from the Gandhian thought. In fact, let me, make a break in the number of articles, because one of the great things which Mahatma Gandhi did was that he influenced the minds of literateurs of his time. My first understanding of what caste is and what untouchability is came from Mulk Raj Anand's book, The Untouchable. Mulk Raj Anand, let me pay my tribute to him, wrote 3 seminal books. And I suggest that all of us must read those books, because, there was 2 Leaves and a Bud, which was about what happens to women in the tea gardens. He wrote The Coolie, and he wrote this. Munshi Premchand, of course, you read. And there's one other person I like to mention, Rajendra Singh Bedi. Rajendra Singh Bedi's book on a scheduled caste convert to Christianity. It's called Plague and Quarantine, because quarantine was called Quantin locally in Punjabi. This person was able to influence the head of the hospital, Dr. Bakshi, to actually go and take care of people in the last plague, which was about 100 years ago. Now, these were all people who were influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. So there is a contribution which he has, and I'm very glad that Mr. Krishnan made it a point to say that let us not look at Ambedkar and Gandhi as binaries, let's look at them along with Narayan Guru. I mean, Narayan Guru, again, a person who said that, all right, I mean, what temple entry, let's make our own temples. And by 1917, he said, that let's not make any temples, let's make libraries. I mean, I'm so glad, that anybody who talks about libraries, I feel very, very thrilled to bits about it. He said, let's make libraries, let's make schools. Let a temple be an adjunct to a school. Now, these were the sort of people who influenced him, and in turn, so let's move on. So what I was talking about is how now, under the 73rd and the 74th Amendment, there is a constitutional provision for SCs, STs, women to be part, not of participation, but of governance. Now they are a part of governance. And if they are a part of governance, it is because of the Constitution. And who brought this about? This was brought about by a colleague of ours. As Dr. Gundru had said, first and foremost, he was also a civil servant like you and me. And he was able to put his best foot forward in the interest. And remember, there's another very interesting thing. Empowering Dalits is for empowering India. Dalit empowerment is an end in itself, but it is also a means to a much larger end, something to which Amod had mentioned in the course of the day. Then, of course, you have Article 244, and you have 275, which mandates the provision of grants and aid for capital, recurring schemes. You have 330, 332, 334, 335, 338, which is the safeguard of all safeguards, because how do you safeguard all this? So all these I've listed down because I think this will be a very good thing for the officer trainees here to have it as a ready reckoner. Have it as a ready reckoner, because knowledge is power. Today, power will not be derived from the barrel of a gun. Power will be derived from your knowledge and your information and your ability to connect various provisions of the law with the problem at hand. So these are provisions which you will get in your handout tomorrow. There's going to be no exam on this. You don't have to look at it in that way, but it is something which will be an empowering experience. I will now talk about Dr. P.S. Krishnan, this academy, Mussoorie and Dehradun. You see, Mr. P.S. Krishnan was a much sought after speaker in several academic institutions, including his own alma mater, the LBS, National Academy of Administration, and we've had several lectures by him, at least 12 or 13 lectures times he has come to this academy and addressed various courses. It's indeed a matter of honor for us that the first P.S. Krishnan Memorial Lecture is anchored here in the academy, and I think on behalf of the academy, we'd like to thank the Center for Dalit Studies for having given us this honor. While at this academy, I've been looking at the subject that he spoke about, and he spoke to us about social exclusion. He spoke to us about land reforms. Land reforms was something which was very close to his heart. He spoke about the POA Act. He spoke about SCP, TSP, and also on the role of civil servants as a catalyst of change. That's also a subject which he spoke and he addressed us. And more than that, each visit of his academy was not limited to interaction with the faculty and OTs. He also made it a point to talk to the staff members. Mr. Nanak Chand, who's sitting here, has had a long association with them. And I think his association with the staff of the academy also made the academy more inclusive. It made the academy an exemplar of what a model working station can be. And as you've seen, this academy runs with such wonderful flourish because of the great support and cooperation that we've had. And I think it was Mr. P.S. Krishnan who started this whole thing about this dialogue, because we are so happy with the faculty and the OTs, we're also happy with each other that we forget that there is a whole support system which lets us happen. And therefore, my compliments to this batch for having looked out, worked with the officers' mess, having worked their own profile, and for the film that you made, which acknowledged the work of all those who are behind the scene. I'd like to inform everybody who's present in this virtual platform, members of the CDS, that this last FC, they made a film, Shilam Param Bhushanam, in which they acknowledged not the faculty, not the staff, but they acknowledged the ITPP man at the gate, they acknowledged the masalchi, they acknowledged the janitor, they acknowledged the girl who's helping those who amongst us who needed some help. So it's a great thing. He was held in the highest esteem by many of our directors. Mr. P.S. Appu, for instance. Mr. P.S. Appu, again, a very legendary person. I mean, again, those from Bihar, and I would suggest that we have this book, Appu Papers also. Appu also stood for principles. I mean, he stood for principles. I mean, and in fact, we'll talk about Mr. Appu on another occasion. Dr. N.C. Saxena, who was the director when I joined here, and Dr. Saxena also transformed the academy in many ways. We've also already talked about Mr. Uganda. Mr. Baswan was a great friend of his. I think Amod, at that time, Mr. Baswan was there. We had him here. In Mr. Habibullah, you also mentioned Lalit Mathur. Mr. Lalit Mathur is mentioned. In fact, other than the Andhra Pradesh cadre, the other great place where social reform has happened is the LBS, National Academy of Administration. So we can compete with Andhra Pradesh. We can easily compete with Andhra Pradesh in saying that we've had equally strong people here. Done this. Dr. V.K. Agnihotri, again from the Andhra Pradesh cadre, again a person who contributed a lot to this. And I should not forget P. Michael Vedashiromani, who was the senior deputy director with us when I was here. And thanks to his nudge, a lot of things have happened in the academy. Now I'll talk to you about 4 interventions which Mr. P.S. Krishnan made for Mussoorie and Dehradun, and for which the people of Mussoorie and Dehradun would remember him and recognize him. You see, there's a settlement here called the settlement of Bansagar. Now, this is a predominantly scheduled caste settlement whose lands were being taken by the mafia from Saharanpur, Amod's area, the UP cadre. So, but at that time, this was still part of UP, and the Saharanpur land mafia was fairly strong. And they come and actually literally kabja out this area. So, Mr. P.S. Krishnan, while he was here, understood, got a representation from those people, and immediately wrote to the Chief Secretary and the Chief Minister that this is something which is wrong, this should not happen. And he did not say it is wrong, it cannot happen. He quoted from the UP land laws. He mentioned the provisions by which land of the scheduled caste cannot be taken in the ordinary course. There has to be a provision, there has to be, the notice has to be given, and reasons have to be registered. So he found out that, look, laws are not being followed. Look, remember that the laws in our country are one of the finest laws that could ever have been made. The question is of implementing them, right? And sometimes the lawmakers perhaps don't realize what is the implication of the laws which they're doing. But if we start following those laws, it could not have happened. So he quoted the law and got Mr. Mata Prasad, the Chief Secretary of UP, to reverse that decision. He ensured that the Bansagar people, the scheduled castes of Bansagar, remain where they are. That's a great work which he did. It led, incidentally, to the suspension of the then SP. The then SSP of Dehradun was suspended. One officer in charge was suspended. And I'm sorry to say that even the district magistrate was given a show cause notice because they felt that this is the land of scheduled caste. ठीक है, चलेगा, कोई बात नहीं. Powerful हैं, दबा देंगे. So one retired man. So remember, your power does not end till as long as you serve. Your power is there because you know the law, right? That's something very, very important. Second, there's a Dhobi Ghat in Mussoorie. Dhobis depend on water. If the Dhobi Ghat does not have water, and what will the Dhobi Ghat do, right? So very powerful people were trying to tap that water illegally. Now, in case there is no water in a Dhobi Ghat, what do? So again, he intervened and ensured that till today, there is no shortage of water in the Dhobi Ghat of Mussoorie. Second credit to him. He was coming lecture to this academy. He got a pilot, and he found that the pilot car was, removing people left, right, and center, encroachment, anti-encroachment, this, that. And he asked those people who were being removed and said that, they said that we are scheduled castes, we are Tibetans, we are Muslims, we have nowhere to go. So what happens if they are, suddenly removed? So he again wrote to Mayawati, the Chief Minister, and said that, look, this is a problem, so why don't you look at it? and they are now rehabilitated. 30 families are now in the Kulri Bazaar. They hold Mr. Krishnan almost like a god. So, I mean, that's the nature of the movement. Now, as your director, I am giving you a small case study because, we never lose an opportunity to impart knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge, yes, information, yes. Wisdom, if you think it is, but certainly information. Now, there is a colony called Kusum Vihar in Dehradun. Now, what I'm trying to share with you is that an officer brings about change when he intervenes as and when he can. But that is possible only if he is conversant with the law, has command over his facts, and also has the ability to place them in the context in which he wants them to be placed. Now, this Kusum Vihar colony, in the technical sense, was an encroachment on government land. It was actually an encroachment on government land. Who encroached that land? That land was encroached by SC. Who are the biggest land encroachers? The biggest land encroachers would be those who don't have title to land, right? The possibility of me encroaching land is less because I have access to land. But the possibility of a person who has no access to land, and that is not out of commercial considerations, it is that they did not have land. So, scheduled castes, backward, minority communities, and government land, which was to be acquired for a residential complex, again for government officers, some government offices, and commercial spaces under the relevant provisions of the Land Acquisition Act. Now, Mr. Krishnan found technical defects in this thing. And he said that how can the MDDA render more people homeless to make some people homeowners, right? So how can you render 1,000 people homeless to provide a housing colony for 100 people? Now, if you put these facts, then it is very difficult to argue against. After all, when you are sitting in judgment over a file, it also depends on how those facts are put up. What is the factual? What is the counterfactual? You are able to therefore prove that what you are doing is wrong. You are rendering people homeless to give accommodation to a few government officers. You're making a commercial space. So there's something fundamentally wrong about it. And he got the land acquisition removed. He got the whole thing revoked. So people are living today in Kusum Vihar. Some of them may know what happened. Some of them may not know what happened. But that is the mission of the man. So what are the takeaways from this case? One, that you must know your law. You must know all the relevant judgments and all the case records around such legislation, right? And this is also important for you because if you ever find that land is being acquired to house 100 people by making 1,000 people homeless, it may not stand scrutiny, and you have this case in front of you. You must know all the facts of the case. You do not argue a case emotionally. See, Mr. Krishnan had a lot of emotion for weaker section, but he would never argue a case on the basis of emotion. You argue a case on the basis of fact. And that is the challenge. That is the beauty of it. Third, you must be able to place the facts in a context. So you place these facts in a context. Fourth, do not be adversarial in your approach. You cannot start by saying, what the hell is your government doing? His letters are very polite. You say, dear Mayawati ji, dear Mata Prasad ji, you may be aware this is happening, this is happening. So even when you are trying to get a thing sorted out, you don't have to be adversarial. We in the first round we have to present our case in a manner which is nice, which is logical, and you must refer to the Constitution of India as often as you can. This is a great strength with us because no political party in this country has the ability or the gumption to say anything against the Constitution. Dr. Wundruk, can I have 2 or 3 more minutes because I'm out of my time, but there is the role of training institutions. We lay great value on our core values, and I'm glad that the core values of the Academy, starting with the service to the underprivileged, is something which Dr. Krishnan held very close to his heart. And you're all aware that every year our officer trainees are doing something which have never been done before. Last year, I'm very happy to report to all of you that each one of my officer trainees has visited a brick kiln. We shall be addressing 2 million of the most disempowered people in the country. We will get BIS standards made for them. We will ensure that if BIS can make standards for hospitals, if BIS can make standards for schools, they can make it for hotels, they can make it for nurseries. Why can't they make BIS standards for brick kilns? This Academy will do it. And we can all do it. The second core value is integrity. It's very important. It is not just financial integrity. It is intellectual integrity. It is honesty. It is the ability to speak truth to power and power to truth. And believe you me, nothing happens. All the stories that you've heard, whether it is Mr. Krishnan, or whether it's Mr. D. Bandyopadhyay, whether it is Mr. Dr. Bhupinder Singh, whether it is B.D. Sharma, whether it is Sankaran, all these people, but Mr. Apu, you see, at the end of the day, an IAS officer will not be known by the bank balance that he or she has. As I've told you many times in class, the nearest petrol pump owner will earn more than you. So why are we playing a game in which we will never succeed? We cannot play that game. I mean, making money cannot be our core competence. It is not. Forget it. So intellectual integrity is something which should be very core to us. And then the whole question of professionalism, which Dr. Krishnan showed you were the two professional. Last but not the least is the whole aspect of respect for diversity and collaboration. So today, this platform is a collaboration between us and the CDS, between us and the SC/ST Officers Forum, and connecting so many people. This is something which is very important. And as training institutions, at least in the academy, will take responsibility for ensuring that a lot of the Indian Constitution, a lot of what can be done by the Indian Constitution, will put it up on the iGOT platform. And let me tell you that in essence, if there is one person who has stood exactly what the IS stands for, Yoga Karma Sukha, that is P.S. Krishnan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, the Director of LBS NA Mussoorie. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of P.S. Krishnan sir's family, on behalf of the Center for Dalit Studies, the Officers Forum in Hyderabad, and other organizer, Dalit Bahujan Front, on my personal behalf, sir, thank you so much for such a deeply intellectual, a very deeply insightful, and more so, very deeply touching and moving, a great tribute to the memory of P.S. Krishnan. Thank you so much, sir. To move on while closing this program, we have two more events. I would like to request Professor V. Krishna, he's a professor from the University of Hyderabad, to give us an academic input for a few minutes. That'll be followed by a book release, as you have mentioned. And then we'll have a vote of thanks from Guntur, which is Dalit Bahujan Front State. I request Professor V. Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Rajshekhar Undru garu. सबसे पहले मैं हमारे बिलवड MS PS कृष्णन जी के प्रति श्रद्धा सुमन और नमन अर्पित करना चाहता हूं और I thank Namaskaram to Mrs. PS Krishnan and his family. और जो इनविटेशन में दिया है remarks, I sincerely and honestly agree that I am not an expert or capable person to pass any remark or remarks on first memorial lecture given by our beloved director, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra ji. But I can say one thing, that is intellectual presentation is a key for understanding past, present, and future of Indian system.
through our beloved P.S. Krishnan ji. As I said, I am not an expert to comment on his memorial lecture because the way he presented and the way he touched our hearts, I think I have no words to explain. Here I can see future India is there sitting, and whole India is hearing. I want to mention two things because our young generation who is going to build our India, future India, I am not going to present any academic lecture or any academic thing. We all know in our democratic country, we believe also all powers confers with the people. And these powers are exercised through designated representatives like you to manage all kinds of challenges, all kinds of issues, and all kinds of problems are being faced by the people. I should not mention that civil servants, by quality of knowledge, experience, and understanding of people's issues, have great responsibility. Because we all know. But still, question stands. How these powers can be implemented for the development of and welfare of our society and enhancement of our nation. Our system, our people really expecting from us, as means here our civil servants, unbiased, honest, efficient, and valiant civil service, whether it is All India services or other civil services. Only one thing I want to remind, that without civil servants, governments, and any other functionaries will not move further, will not function. I think this we should keep in our mind. With this, I thank everybody, particularly CDS, for giving this honor to interact with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor V. Krishna from the University of Hyderabad. I would like to request Dr. Sanjeev Chopra to move on to release the book, which is published by Forward Press of New Delhi. The Forward Press of New Delhi had taken up the mantle of translating the original English version. The English version's name is A Crusade for Social Justice. P.S. Krishnan, Bending Governance Towards the Deprived. It was originally published in English by South Vision Books, and it was on the basis of conversation with P.S. Krishnan by Dr. Vasanti Devi, who was a Vice Chancellor. I hope some of us have received the books. The publisher, Anil Varghese, is very thankful to Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir, all the Center for Dalit Studies and all the participants, for he really struggled to bring the book right away till Mussoorie, Hyderabad, Chandigarh, and Guntur. The Hindi version, the translated version is Bharatiya Karyapalika mein Samajik Nyay ka Sangharsh, Ankahi Kahani, P.S. Krishnan ki Zubani, Baatcheet, V. Vasanti Devi, published by Forward Press, New Delhi. We request Dr. Chopra.
Dr. Chopra and Shri Amod Kumar, Shri Divyanshu Patel, mentor of Phase 1, and the members of the course team for the book release.
So is it Nanak Chandji?
I would also request Nanak Chandji to come up.
To be honest.
Thank you, sir. The publisher, Anil Varghese, would like to thank for the releasing the book. This, we hope it'll get wider circulation with the insight of P.S. Krishnan ji. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. जैसा कि हम सब जानते हैं कि पिछले वर्ष से हमारे यहाँ राहुल संकटायन मंच की स्थापना हुई है, इसलिए हिंदी में पुस्तकों का दिव्यांशु एक मिनट रुको, तो मैं दिव्यांशु से कहूंगा कि 2 मिनट राहुल संकटायन क्लब के बारे में और कैसे हम सब हिंदी एवं बाकी भारतीय भाषाओं को अकादमी में प्रोत्साहन देने का कार्य करेंगे, उसके बारे में भी 2 शब्द आपसे बोलेंगे। तो इस साल के जो राहुल संकटायन मंच के जो उपस्थित दोनों लोग हैं ऊपर आ जाएं आप भी, बिकॉज वी मस्ट सेलिब्रेट दिस फ्रॉम द राहुल संकटायन क्लब बिकॉज यू आल्सो डूइंग इट। आइए बोलो।
थैंक यू सर। ये पिछले साल सर का आइडिया था और सबसे पहले मुझे सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ, अपने साथी जो मेरे साथ एफसी कर रहे थे, फिर फेज 1 में भी उन्होंने मौका दिया। भारतीय भाषाओं के संदर्भ में हिंदी को आगे बढ़ाने का जो भी विचार डायरेक्टर सर का था, उसे आगे चल के शिक्षा संस्कृति उत्थान न्यास के जो सचिव हैं अतुल कोठारी, जिन्होंने नई शिक्षा नीति में बहुत भूमिका निभाई है, उनसे मेरी चर्चा हुई। और जाहिर सी बात है कि आईएएस ऑफिसर्स को ज्यादातर अंग्रेजी ना बोला जाता है कि ये सिर्फ अंग्रेजी में ही बात करते हैं, गांव वालों से बात नहीं करते हैं। तो डायरेक्टर सर, मैं जब पहली बार मिला तो मैं डायरेक्टर सर से अपना इंट्रोडक्शन इंग्लिश में दे रहा था, तो मैं डाटा बोले आइंदा तुम एकेडमी में इंग्लिश नहीं बोलोगे, बैन लग गया है। तो मैं तब से आज तक इंग्लिश में बोलता ही नहीं हूँ। वो पहला एक कॉन्फिडेंस था कि किसी इतने बड़े ऑफिसर के सामने वो कह रहे हैं कि आप अपनी मातृभाषा में बोलिए जिसमें आप सहज हैं, आपने एग्जाम इंग्लिश में पास कर लिया, ठीक है, आप हिंदी मंच के सचिव हैं और हिंदी में ही बातचीत किया कीजिए। फिर सर ने उसमें मुझे थोड़ा सा और नच किया कि आप अन्य भारतीय भाषाओं को भी शामिल कीजिए अपने हिंदी मंच में। हमने कोशिश की, कितने सफल रहे कितने सफल, वो डायरेक्टर साहब और बाकी फैकल्टी, नंदिनी मैम यहाँ बैठी हैं, वो बता सकते हैं। सोशल जस्टिस पर एक किताब निकली, वो भी इंग्लिश में है, और अभी जो सर से बात हुई, आमो सर ने बुलाया, वो मेरे यूपी कार्टर में मेंटर भी हैं, तो उन्होंने यही कहा कि यार इस किताब को थोड़ा छोटा बनाओ और इसे हिंदी में भी निकालो। तो उस पर भी काम चल रहा है। मेरे जो दोनों साथी हिंदी मंच के हैं, मैं कल उनसे मिलूंगा और आगे हिंदी मंच और ज़्यादा अच्छा काम करे और डायरेक्टर सर की जो भी भावना इस मंच के पीछे है वो प्रफुल्लित होती रहे, पल्लवित होती रहे, यही मेरी कामना है।
Thank you so much from the academy. Thank you so much, Academy. LBS, NNA, we used to call, in our 1990 batch, we never used to call it Labasna. We used to call LBS, NNA. Thank you so much, sir, for all the memories, bringing back the memories. It's a beautiful evening. A great befitting tribute to P.S. Krishnan's memory. I would like now, for the closing part of it, I'd like to ask Shri Kurivi Vinay Kumar of the Dalit Bahujan Front from Guntur to propose a vote of thanks.
Hello? Are you hearing? Hello?
Chepu.
Okay, fine. We are very thankful to this evening organizing such a beautiful, wonderful gathering with best brains of the country together to tribute to our great social justice crusader, Dr. P.S. Krishnan ji. It is a privilege to me on behalf of Center for Dalit Studies, SCST Office Forum and Dalit Bahujan Front to concluding this session. What a wonderful way Dr. Sanjeev Chopra ji, Director of Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy, Administrative Academy Director, what a wonderful way he presented the entire scenario, how the system is working, how the officers, how the how the administrative officers or the civil servants are the agents of the social change. He is beautifully presented. We are very thankful, sir, because of we are working at the grassroots level. We have lots of interaction with the many officers last 4 decades. When we are talking about all the issues, it is placing before me. I'm very thankful to you, sir, on behalf of the organizers, and also congratulating the academy, the Mussoorie Academy, who are participated with a great enthusiasm in this occasion. We are also thank you all the participants of the Mussoorie Academy, and also our brother and a guide to us in the social movement and Dalit movement, who is presiding this occasion, Dr. Rajshekar Undru. It is beautifully organized by this evening. I'm very thankful to you, brother Rajshekar. You are not an officer, but also an activist. We are close to our minds and hearts of this occasion. Thank you so much. Our senior leader and guide philosopher, Sir Kakimadala sir, you have given a lot of inputs and memories of the experiences of your own experience in your lifetime. It is very exaggerated ourselves. We are very thankful, sir. Krishna is our close friend of us in social movements and activist movement and also academic movement. I am very thankful to Krishna ji. Finally, Mr. Lakshmaya ji is a great organizer and also conceptual leader in this period. He is organizing this event. He is respecting all the senior civil servants who work for the cause of the Dalit exploiting community, discriminated community, for their empowerment and their liberation. He is recognizing all the Sankaranji and P.S. Krishnan, Yugandarji, and K. Ramgo, and other senior leaders who work for our community liberation, like Mr. Lakshmayaji. I'm very thankful to initiate this occasion with the Center for Dalit Studies and his team. And I will congratulating and also participating who are in the different YouTube viewers as activists and academicians and politicians, participated number of people in this occasion. I'm thankful to everybody. And finally, Madam Santa Krishnan ji, who is very kind heart with us, who visited her place in the time of 2000, 2001 in their house. personally he is taking care of ourselves. I'm very thankful to Madam. We are very grateful to your services and your commitment to the Dalit movement and Dalit liberation. Thank you so much. Finally, I will concluding this occasion is a good beginning of the coming together as a social activists, civil servants, and academicians and social scientists together to celebrate the occasion of the achievements and the ideals of the P.S. Krishnan ji together in the name of his remembrance. Thank you so much. Jai Bhim. Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, everybody, and a happy New Year to everybody, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy New Year, sir. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Thank you.